The Quran contains a significant amount of prophecies that Muslims believe were recited by the Prophet Muhammad, which were revealed to him by God. Not every prophecy mentioned is going to be directly from the Quran. Some will be from the hadith, which is a collection of the words and actions recorded of the Islamic Prophet Muhammad. So let's jump right in. Starting at number 10, we have Palace Mosque. Now you'll find in the hadith that it is said that the mosque would be like palaces. Muslims believe that even though the Prophet had said that any house of Allah should be kept simple, mosques over time became more and more grandiose, with huge domes, marble floors, lavish carpets, and all sorts of fancy fixtures. The prediction at number 9 was that Pharaoh at the time of Moses will be found. Now there's great debate as to the identity of the Pharaoh in the time of Musa or Moses. However, it is believed that based on the Quran, it was Ramses II that was Pharaoh at the time. Now the Quran and the Bible state that the Pharaoh was drowned in the sea. However, the Quran does differ from the Bible, where it says that the body of the Pharaoh was saved as a sign for future generations. Now the body of Ramses II had survived in a mummified form and was discovered in the year 1881 among a group of other royal mummies that had been removed from their original tombs because they were fearful that people would try to steal the bodies. So because of this, Muslims view this as an accurate statement in the Quran. Number 8, the conquest of Mecca was also predicted. That was only 6 years after the Prophet Muhammad had moved to Medina that he left for Mecca, which is spelled M-A-K-K-A, also spelled M-E-C-C-A, and he went there for a brief pilgrimage. However, the Meccans stopped him and a peaceful treaty was eventually made after some negotiations. And now some articles of the treaty were objected to by believers, but the verses in the Quran that were revealed following the treaty describe it as a manifest victory. It says, "In truth, God fulfilled the vision of his messenger. You will surely enter the sacred mosque if God wills, in full security. You will have your heads shaved, your hair shortened, and you will have nothing to fear. He knew what you knew not, and he granted besides this near victory. He it is who sent his messenger with guidance and the religion of truth, that he may cause it to prevail over all religion. God is enough for a witness." And then 1 year later, the Muslims performed a minor pilgrimage, and then a year after, they conquered Mecca. Number 7 is the triumph of the Byzantines. So the Byzantine, or the Eastern Roman Empire, and the Persian empires were superpowers at the time. Now it was during the years when few believers were actually persecuted in Mecca that the Persians defeated the Byzantines. They conquered places like Aleppo, Antioch, as well as main Syrian provinces, and also Jerusalem. And the Persian conquest went on to Egypt, and they reached as far as Tripoli in North Africa. Now the following verse in the Quran, which were revealed at that time, told of this victory of the Romans over the Persians. And it says, "The Romans have been defeated in a land close by, but they after their defeat will be victorious within 9 years. He helps to victory who he wills. He is almighty, all compassionate." And that's found in Al-Rum, which is Surah 30 and verses 1 to 5. I just sort of shortened that there for you. Then Heraclius, the Roman emperor, attacked the Persians and beat them within a few years. The Mongol invasion comes in at number 6. Now the Prophet Muhammad is believed to also have predicted the Mongol invasion, saying these words, "The hour will not come before you fight against the people with red faces, small slant eyes, and flat noses. They wear hairy leather boots." The prediction of tall buildings comes in at number 5. So the Prophet mentioned that there would be signs forewarning the approach of the last days. It was said that barefooted Bedouins would be competing in building tall buildings. And like today, if we look in the Arabian Peninsula, we can see that Arabs who used to be herders of camels and sheep are actually really competing to make tall towers. You can find some in Saudi Arabia, as well as extremely tall buildings in other various Arab-speaking places over in the Middle East. Government forms were also predicted. Now the Prophet Muhammad is also said to have predicted the forms of government after him. So he said this affair began with the prophethood as a mercy, then it will be mercy and caliphate. Afterwards it will change into a cruel monarchy, and finally into an iniquity and tyranny. It's believed he also prophesied saying, "Surely the caliphate after me will last 30 years, and afterwards it will be a cruel monarchy." And then at number 3 is a prediction of Fatima's passing. The prophet is believed to have foretold that Fatima would join him first after he died. Now before his death though, he called his daughter Fatima to his bedside and told her that she would be the first among the family to join him after his death. And then, yep, Fatima joined her father 6 months later. Then at number 2, the Prophet Muhammad also informed the Muslims that a false messiah would come and misguide the people. And also a detailed description of the Dajjal was given. He's said to be blind in one eye, and also said that the Dajjal's right eye would look like a grape. Also Dajjal's left eye would be defective and also green in color, and then his complexion would be reddy white. He also describes Dajjal saying that he would have a prominent forehead as well as a wide neck, and he would be a short person but also very powerful with a hunch on his back. He would walk with his feet apart, so it won't be like a normal person walking. He'll also have long curly and thick hair, and it's also said that he would not have any children. And the final prophecy is the prophecy of the end of the world. So a considerable part of the Quran talks about events in the last days, right? And the Quran describes how the world will be destroyed and then rebuilt again, and how dead people will be raised and gathered into the place of mustering. And after being judged, they'll go either to paradise or to hell. And the Quran also gives very detailed descriptions of what paradise is like as well as what hell is like. Starting at number 10, we have enmity among Christians. So enmity among Christian sects until the day of resurrection was a prophecy, and it's in Surah Al-Ma'idah verses 14, and it says, "From those who call themselves Christians we took their covenant, but they have abandoned a good part of the message that was sent to them. So we planted amongst them enmity and hatred till the day of resurrection, when they discarded Allah's book, disobeyed Allah's messengers and his orders, and transgressed beyond bounds in Allah's disobedience. And Allah will inform them of what they used to do." For number 9, the Prophet Muhammad shares a prophecy that his religion would prevail over all others. And Allah has said this to him: "It is he who has sent his messenger Muhammad with guidance and the religion of truth, Islam, to make it superior over all religions." You can find this info in several surahs in the Quran. Al-Taba 9:33, then there's Al-Fat 48:28, and then there's Al-Saf 61:9. There's also a prophecy that rain will stop and plants will die, and this is going to happen in the 3rd year prior to the Antichrist. A third of the rain will not fall, and then the next year 2/3 will not fall, and then in the year of the Antichrist there's going to be no rainfall. And many Muslims believe that these predictions appear to be coming to pass right now, as climate change actually alters the patterns in rain in the Middle East as well as different parts of the world. Number 7, let's talk about economic sanctions. In the hadith Al-Bidayah wa Al-Nihayah, page 47, it says, "The people of Iraq and the people of Syria and the people of Egypt will suffer from economic sanctions imposed by those of European descent. Then the time of the Mahdi will come, and he will establish justice, a strong caliphate, and there will be an abundance of money." The 3 trials come in at number 6, and there's a prophecy that these 3 trials will hit the Muslim world before the Antichrist appears. There's going to be the trial of retreat and war, and then there's going to be the trial of false happiness, and it will come from a man, a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, but he will not be a good person. And then people will resolve their differences with a weak and unstable leader, as he's called. And then the next, there's going to be catastrophe that's going to hit every person in the Muslim world. Now when people start thinking that it's over, it'll hit them again, and at the end they will be divided into 2 groups. One group is going to be those who have pure belief, and the other group those who are going to be filled with hypocrisy. And then when this happens, it's said that the Antichrist will appear any minute. And that's from the hadith Al-Bidayah wa Al-Nihayah, page 53 to 54. Halfway to number 5, there's a prophecy of Israel. So the development of the area of modern day Israel means that the city of Medina is about to fall apart, and then the falling apart of Medina means that the great battle of Armageddon is about to happen, and then the great battle of Armageddon means that the city of modern day Istanbul is about to fall to Muslim rule. Now when it falls, that means that the Antichrist also is about to appear, and that's found in the same hadith, page 65. Number 4 brings us a prophecy of lightning being increased. So it said that lightning strikes will increase until it becomes common for people to be killed by lightning strikes. Now, that's not a common thing. It's very rare to be struck by lightning. As a matter of fact, they do say that it is more common to be struck by lightning than it is to win the lottery. I hope I ain't one of those people get struck by lightning. No. That just looks so painful. Then there is the prophecy of Yajuj and Majuj, aka Gog and Magog, and they will be released. Their army will come swarming down from every place to kill and destroy what they find. Now the people will set up defenses in their cities, and it said that Jesus will lead his followers to take up a defensive position in the mountains. And when they think that they have killed those on earth, Yajuj and Majuj will then try to kill those in the air. And then it said that Jesus and his followers will pray, and God will send disease that will kill Yajuj and Majuj. And then heavy rain is going to fall on the earth, and the earth will produce again. And Yajuj and Majuj are described as having round faces, very small eyes, and black hair with reddish and yellow highlights. And that's found in the same hadith, page 132 to 133, as well as 134. Now number 2 brings us a man from Ethiopia. So in this prophecy, a man will appear from the land in the area of modern day Ethiopia, and he will actually tear down the Kaaba. Now the Quran and Islam will be lost until there are groups of people with the elderly among them who will only carry a very small memory of the oneness of God. Now when the end time comes, there will not be a single person left on earth that calls on Allah's name. Also, it said that idol worship will return to the Arabs, and that's also found in the hadith Al-Bidayah wa Al-Nihaya, page 136, page 28 to 29, and also page 45. And the final prophecy is fire. So the fire will appear from the bottom of Aden in modern day Yemen, and it will drive people as they try to run away from it to the land of modern day Syria. Then it said that there's going to be a horn that's going to be blown, and everyone will be left in complete terror. And you can also find this in the same hadith, page 143 and page 175. Let's kick things off with number 10. We have the appearance of the Mahdi. Now, in simplest terms, the Mahdi is Islam's Messiah or Savior. Now, the Mahdi will rise up to launch a massive social transformation in the world in order to restore and modify all things under divine guidance. So yeah, similar to other Abrahamic religions, Jews who are waiting for the Messiah, Christians who are waiting for the second coming of Jesus, and Muslims are waiting for both the Mahdi and Jesus. Number 9, there will be moral decay. Now, according to Muslims, yes, a lot of this is happening, but there's going to come a time where this is going to be on another level that has never reached before. So the moral conditions at that time will be at an all-time low. In the Islamic hadith, it says, from among the potents of the hour are the following. Religious knowledge will be taken away by the death of religious learned men. Religious ignorance will prevail. Drinking of alcoholic drinks will be very common. There will be prevalence of open illegal sexual intercourse. And that's found in the Al-Muslim volume 4, pages 1503 to 1504. Then next up, this is a pretty big one. At number 8, we have Mecca being attacked and the Kaaba being destroyed. Now, one of the last signs of the day of resurrection in Islam is the destruction of the Kaaba. And the Kaaba will actually be destroyed by Zul Suwakatayn, and he will be from Abyssinia, aka Ethiopia, and will destroy the Kaaba in order to steal its treasure and Kiswa, which is the cover of the Kaaba. And the destruction of the Kaaba is actually prophesied to happen after no faithful Muslim remains on the earth. Now, I talked about this briefly when I mentioned the return of the Mahdi, but it's also prophesied that, yes, Jesus will descend from heaven. So Muslims believe that Isa, aka Jesus, did not die on the cross, but that Allah raised him up to heaven, and that he's going to return one day to defeat the Dajjal, which is likened to the Antichrist. So according to the hadith, Jesus is in the second heaven, and the Prophet Muhammad in this hadith mentioned this, and I quote, "During the Mi'raj, which is the ascension, I met Isa on the second heaven. I found him of medium stature, reddish white. His body was so clean and clear that it appeared as though he had performed ghusl, which is an ablution cleansing of the entire body." Now, in another hadith, the Prophet Muhammad mentioned this, Allah will send Messiah in Maryam, which is the Messiah, son of Mary. Thus he will descend near the white eastern minaret of Damascus, clad in 2 yellow sheets, leaning on the shoulders of 2 angels. So we talked about the prophecies of the Mahdi and the Messiah, Isa, or Jesus in Islam. Of course, we got to talk about the false Messiah now. So coming up at number 6, we have the false Messiah, Al-Dajjal, or the deceiver, aka the false Messiah / Antichrist in the Islamic faith. And he's a false messianic figure who will come forth before the end of time after a reign of 40 days or 40 years, and he will be totally destroyed by Jesus or the Mahdi or both of them. It just depends on which interpretation of the prophecy that you look at according to various Islamic views. But bottom line, this Dajjal or false Messiah is coming, and he's gonna be destroyed. And then after that, the world will submit to God. And Dajjal, by the way, he's a bad brother. He's gonna be performing miracles and deceive a whole lot of people. He's gonna make it appear like he's raising people from the dead. So he's gonna be really convincing, and at this time, it's gonna be such a time of deception that, like, if you're not on your A game, you're gonna be deceived. This guy's gonna be the master deceiver. So now moving on to number 5, we have the prophecy of Yajuj and Majuj, aka Gog and Magog. So now this is recorded in the Quran in the following verse. But when Yajuj and Majuj are let loose and they rush headlong down every hill. So just to talk a little bit more about Yajuj and Majuj, what's going on here anyways? Well, they're located in a land that's hidden from our sight, and the exact location of where they are is unknown. But though there are many interpretations that do exist, none of these, however, can be said to be 100% absolute. But they, the people of Yajuj and Majuj, are human beings, and according to a narration or a hadith, they are the offspring of Japheth, the son of Noah. These guys are so bad, like they can literally drink up a lake so fast, like all the water in the lake, and they just want to destroy people. Like they will destroy any living thing in their path. I ain't trying to see them let loose. No. I'm staying in self-isolation if that's the case. But anyways, guys, moving on to number 4, we have a huge black cloud of smoke that's going to cover the entire earth. So in the Quran, it says, "So be on the watch for a day when heaven shall bring a manifest smoke covering the people. This is a painful chastisement." And that's found in Surah 44, verses 10 and 11. And then the Prophet Muhammad also said, "The hour will not rise until you have seen 10 signs, the rising of the sun from the west and the smoke the beast." And actually, let me just pause the quote right there, because there's a difference of opinion regarding whether or not the smoke mentioned in this verse in the Quran refers to the smoke that was foretold as one of the signs of the final hour. It's mentioned that the smoke will cover the earth for a period of 40 days, which will affect both believers and disbelievers. Now, the believers will be affected as if they're suffering from a common cold or something, whereas the non-believers will suffer in a much more harsher way. But let's now move on to the prophecy of the beast of the earth. Now, the beast was also mentioned in the Quran in the following verse. "We shall bring forth for them out of the earth a beast that shall speak unto them." And you can find that in Surah 27, verses 82. Now, there's differences of opinion amongst scholars regarding the details of the beast, but they are as follows. So the first is the appearance. So some scholars have held to the belief that the beast is a she-camel of the prophet Salih, and others stated that it's an animal that is a hybrid of many different animals, and others even say that this is actually a human being. Now, the next point is the place of emergence. Some scholars state that the beast will emerge from Mecca. Others say that it's going to emerge from the desert and then disappear, then emerge from a village and then disappear, and then finally from the Masjid al-Haram in Mecca. Now, there's another opinion that states that this beast will emerge from Ta'if. Then the next difference is its speech. So the beast will address the people with the words of Allah, saying, "Mankind did not believe our signs," and that's in the Quran, Surah 7, verses 82, while other scholars quote Ibn Abbas that speaking refers to the action of the beast in differentiating the disbelievers from the believers. And then the final difference is the role that the beast is going to have. So the beast will be tasked to differentiate the believers from the disbelievers, and Abu Huraira narrates that the Prophet Muhammad said this: "The beast of the earth will emerge and have with it the staff of Moses and the ring of Solomon. Now it will use these to mark off the disbelievers from the believers." But one thing scholars can agree on is that the beast is coming. Next up, prophecy number 2, we have the sun will rise from the west. So we know the sun rises in the east. Well, not that it rises in the east, but like in the eastern direction, or what we call east anyways. That's where the sun comes up, and over in the direction of the west, that's where the sun sets. But in Islam, it is prophesied that the sun will rise from the west instead of rising from the east in the end times before the day of judgment. Now, both the Quran and the hadith, they talk about this phenomenon, and the occurrence of this phenomenon is considered in Islam as one of the major signs that indicate that the day of judgment is close. Specifically, the Quran says, "No good will it do to a person to believe then, if he believed not before, nor earned good by performing deeds of righteousness through his faith." And that's found in Surah 6 verses 158. And this verse is believed to be referring to the rising of the sun from the west, according to popular opinion of Muslim scholars. It is also believed that the Prophet Muhammad said that becoming a believer will be of no benefit after the sun rises from the west. And finally, the last prophecy to mention in this episode is the second blow of the trumpet that's gonna sound. The Prophet Muhammad, he is believed to have said that one who will blow the trumpet has been ready to do this since Allah created him. And in a quote, the Messenger of Allah said, "The gaze of the one who will blow the trumpet has been fixed since he was entrusted with it, looking towards the throne, ready to blow it in case he will be commanded to do so before he blinks, as if his eyes are two shining stars." Now, the majority of the Muslim scholars share the view that the trumpet will be blown twice. Now, on the first trumpet, all creatures will pretty much just pass out. And the second trumpet is a time of resurrection. And this is based on the verse in which the Quran says, "And the trumpet will be blown, and all who are in the heavens and all who are on the earth will swoon away, except him who Allah wills. Then it will be blown a second time, and behold, they will be standing, looking on, waiting." And you can find that in the Quran, Surah 39, verses 68. Christianity and Islam both have texts believed to be inspired and are religions who also emphasize prophecies as a sign of being divinely inspired. But let's just jump right in and let's take a look. At number 10, we have the prophecy of earthquakes. Now, in Islam, it says that the hour will not be established till earthquakes will increase in number. And this is in the Hadith Bukhari, volume 9, book 88. Now, in Christianity, in Matthew 24 verses 7, it says this: "Nations will rise against nations and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." And this was when Jesus was talking to his disciples, telling them about the different signs that were going to happen in the last days. At number 9, we have the sun and moon becoming dark. And it's from the Quran, Surah 75 verses 6 to 9. And it says, "When is the day of resurrection? So when the sight becomes dazed and the moon becomes dark and the sun and the moon are brought together." So you see, the sun would lose its brilliance and heat and become dark, and the moon also will be darkened. In the Christian belief, there's a passage in the Bible that says, "But immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky and the powers of heaven will be shaken." And that's found in Matthew 24 verses 29. So you see similar language there with the sun and the moon not giving their light. At number 8, we have people not really wanting to live. And in Islam, there's a passage in the hadith that says, "The hour will not be established till a man, when passing by a grave of someone, will say, 'Would that I were in his place.'" And then over in Christianity, in the final book of the Bible, Revelation 9 verses 6, which we're going to be talking a lot about in this episode, it says, "During those days people will seek death but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them." So you see, in both of these passages, people people didn't actually want to be alive. They'd rather be in the position of a dead person than living. Number 7 brings us the Antichrist. And in Islam, the appearance of the Antichrist, called the Dajjal, is a big sign. But Dajjal isn't mentioned in the Quran, only in the hadith. And there's a whole description given about him, that he'll have one eye, he'll claim to be a prophet, he'll deceive people by performing miracles. And the hadith also mentions that the word infidel or unbeliever will be written on his forehead. Now in Christianity, the counterpart to Dajjal, the Antichrist, is described as somebody that's going to be fulfilling Bible prophecies, in the sense that it was foretold that the Antichrist will actually oppose Christ himself. Now the term is found 5 times in the New Testament, in the 1st and 2nd epistle of John, and the Antichrist is announced as the one who denies the Father and the Son. And the similar term, false Christ, is also found in the Gospels, in the book of Matthew and the book of Mark as well. And then Jesus tells his disciples not to be deceived by false prophets, which claim to be Christ themselves, and they perform miracles as well. Now there's 2 other symbolisms for the Antichrist. In the book of Daniel, he's described as the little horn, and in the book of Thessalonians, he's described as the man of sin. At number 6, we have the beast of the earth. Now in Islam, there's a passage that says, when the word is fulfilled against them, the unjust, we shall produce from the earth a beast to face them. He will speak to them, for that mankind did not believe with assurance in our signs. And that's in the Quran, Surah 27, verses 82. Now in Christianity, we see a similar term, the beasts of the earth, also come up in the book of Revelation. And it's described as the second beast comes out of the earth and directs all people to worship the first beast. And that first beast came out of the water. Also, a similar prophecy shared in Islam and Christianity is the return of Jesus. So in Islam, according to their tradition, Jesus will descend in the midst of wars fought by Al-Mahdi, who is the guided one, and he's known as the Redeemer of Islam. And Jesus joins him in the fight against Dajjal. Eventually, Jesus will slay the Antichrist, and everyone who is a part of the people of the book, referring to Jews and Christians, will believe in him. And thus, there will be a community of only Muslims. Everybody will convert at that time. And you can find all of this in Sahih al-Bukhari, volume 3, book 43, and that's hadith number 656. Over in Christianity, things happen really quickly with the return of Jesus. In the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 to 18, it says, for the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. So then after this event, a 1,000-year period passes by, and then Jesus, with the people who are deemed holy that were caught up to meet him in the air, will then return to the earth. Jesus will destroy Satan finally, and then recreate the earth. Number 4 brings us Gog and Magog. But in the Islamic tradition, Yajuj and Majuj are the counterparts of Gog and Magog in the Hebrew Bible and the Christian New Testament. Now they're mentioned in surahs 18 and 21 of the Quran, and according to the Quran, a certain people terrorized by Yajuj and Majuj cause a figure called Du al-Qarnayn to construct between Yajuj and Majuj a great wall that no one can climb or go through, and trapping both sides between 2 mountains until just before the last judgment. A hadith states that only at the appointed time will Allah allow the wall to collapse, freeing Yajuj and Majuj, and Isa or Jesus and Al-Mahdi, who is a redeemer in Islam, as well as all of the believers with them, will go to the top of the mountain and pray for the destruction of Gog and Magog, and God will eventually send disease and worms to wipe them out. Now Christianity, in the book of Revelation, you can find Gog and Magog, but in the book of Revelation it tells how Satan is to be imprisoned for 1,000 years, and how then he'll be released, and then people who are not deemed righteous will actually be resurrected, and then Satan will gather them all together for one final battle. And these people are going to come from all corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to a final battle with Christ and his holy people. So here we see that Gog and Magog are symbols of cities or regions. And at number 3, we have the trumpet. So in Islam, there's 3 trumpets, and after the gathering of the people to Syria from all around the world, the first trumpet will be blown, and then the first one is called the trumpet of terror, and it will be a wake-up call that strikes terror in the hearts of people. Then there's a second trumpet that's blown, and that's called the trumpet of swoon, and it will result in every creature in heaven and on earth to die except God himself. And then when new heaven heavens and a new earth are created, that's when the third trumpet will be blown, and that's the trumpet of resurrection according to Islamic tradition. Now, Christianity, in Revelation chapter 8, we see that there's 7 trumpets, and in Christianity, the first 6 trumpets are used as plagues that fall on the earth, but you see the 7th trumpet actually doesn't cause a plague, it just announces that the Messiah is returning. Then number 2, we have the time of great testing. So Islam describes this as the biggest fitna or testing period in history, and there'll never be a period like this, and that's associated with the Dajjal. And those who know the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran will be protected from Dajjal and this great time of tribulation and trouble. And then in the religion of Christianity, this is talked about in Matthew 24 verses 21. It says, "For then there will be great distress unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again." And finally, the last one to talk about is the divided families. Over in Islam, one of the signs of the end is that families will be divided. And the hadith, it says, "A man will obey his wife and disobey his mother and treat his friend kindly while shunning his father." And now over in Christianity, we see this in Luke 12 verses 52. It says, "From now there will be 5 in one family divided against each other, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son and son against father, mother against daughter and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law." So we see a whole bunch of divide happening here in both Islam and Christianity.